My friends, San Francisco used to be a divided city. For centuries, the cold, rushing waters of the Pacific rushed into the bay, providing a watery wall between the peninsula of the city and the peninsula of Marin County on the northern side of the bay. Now, in the 1930s, the citizens of San Francisco decided to build a bridge across that cold, watery divide. Now remember, these were the Depression years, and the government could not afford to help finance the project. So the citizens mortgaged their homes and borrowed money to make the Golden Gate Bridge a reality. It really was an audacious undertaking, and a dangerous one at that. The bridge was not only built without sacrifice, including even the loss of lives for those building the bridge, but today, that bridge is the most photographed image in San Francisco and a sign of welcome to those who approach America from the West, in the same way that the Statue of Liberty welcomes those who approach America from the East. What a powerful symbol is a bridge. It connects separated people. It spans dangerous waters and chasms. It unites estranged people in distance, cut off by jagged edges of geography. Today, we focus our hearts and worship on the mystery of the Eucharist. We stand in awe and reverence before the Eucharist. It is a great mystery of our Catholic faith. It is a sign of God's incredible grace. And when we gather for any Eucharistic celebration, we gather around the table of the Lord. I'd like to suggest today that the table of the Lord is also a bridge spanning distances between us and God. You know, the Eucharist connects us to God and to each other across a span of time. Now, Jesus spoke of the Last Supper in multiple time tenses. He looked back to the past, setting the supper in context of the Passover meal, a celebration of God's faithfulness in creation and redemption of Israel. Jesus called us to remember, but Jesus is also present in the moment of the Eucharist. We experience the presence and grace of his sacrament in the present moment of Eucharistic worship. You see, the Eucharist proclaims that Christ is here with us right now, today. And Jesus looked to the future as he instituted the Eucharist, speaking of a day when we would celebrate it all again in his Father's kingdom. Now, when we celebrate the Eucharist, we connect with Christians all across time. In a sense, worship in general and the Mass in particular are really rehearsals for the eternal and future intimacy with God that will make heaven heavenly. Now, when we celebrate the Eucharist, we connect with Christians all across time. We are one with those who have gone before us, and we mystically join all others who will follow us. You see, the table of the Lord is a bridge that spans across time. The Eucharist also connects us to God and to each other across a span of distance. Now, Jesus also transcends geography when he gave the Eucharist to the church. Now, when we celebrate the Eucharist, we are joined to those in the church who celebrate all around the world. No language, no culture, no national boundary is great enough to overcome the bridge that is the table of the Lord in the Eucharist. Like children running to the dinner table from various rooms of the house, the people of the Lord unite as the family of God across miles. Fred Craddock, who was an ordained minister of the Disciples of Christ, tells a story of a church in Tennessee that was unwilling to welcome strangers and newcomers to their worship. They did not want to drink a common cup or share a common loaf with people that they did not know. You know, some in their church feared that if they let strangers into their church, they might soon be sharing the table of the Lord with Yankees or people of other races. It seemed unthinkable for them. Well, you will not be surprised that eventually that little church died, and the building was sold to a barbecue restaurant. Now, Craddock notes with irony that the restaurant thrived where the little church had died, because a restaurant opened its doors and its tables to everyone who entered. And it is the purpose of tables to unite and to welcome, as it is the purpose of bridges to unite and to connect. In Louisville, Kentucky, a great bridge spans the Ohio River. It is decorated with pretty lights, especially during the Christmas season, but there is something fundamentally wrong with that particular bridge. It is not connected to either shore. It is pretty, yes, pretty useless. May the table of the Lord never be reduced to something pretty, a private treasure for admiration of insiders. May it be a bridge connecting people who are estranged from each other and from God. The Eucharist also connects us to God and to each other across a span of sin and alienation. Now let's face it, there is a great divide in humanity, more dangerous and persistent than the distance of time and space. It is the gap that separates us from one another and from God due to our sinfulness. Now, what can we do to bridge that gap? Not a thing, not a single thing. We are trapped on an Alcatraz island of our own making. So God did for us what we could not do for ourselves. He built a bridge. And like the Golden Gate Bridge, the cost of the bridge was very high. The bridge spanned the dark and dangerous currents of our sin. The bridge would come at a cost of precious life, the life of Jesus Christ himself. But there was no price that God was willing to pay to make a bridge to us. And the name of this wonderful bridge, why, it's the name of Jesus Christ and his gift of grace to us. Let us come then to the table, the very bridge to the mystery of God's love. And as we come to the table, let's look around us. The same table that connects us to God also connects us to each other. The Eucharist is not a private meal or a function catered by God to be taken or worshiped in solitude, like a lonely business traveler eating room service in their hotel room. It is a banquet of joy to be shared with each other. So let us come now. Let us cross the bridge to the place of joy and grace. It is the one true destination to which we all long.